Seconds to answer. Question 1 will go to Ryan Gatti. Louisiana residents pay some of the highest car insurance rates in the nation. If you have been in office, what have you done to help relieve this burden to Louisiana residents? If this is your first time to run for a state office, what would you do if elected to help decrease rates to Louisiana residents?
Wow, let me say that backwards. Wow, that's the perfect question right now, isn't it? I grew up working at my dad's wrecking yard, and his insurance was so high that my brothers and I were the only ones that could drive the wreckers at 15 and 16 years old. I own a business where we use a spade truck to move trees, and I move trees from my farm in Plain Dillon all over North Bossier. And so when I ran for the legislature, I wanted to make sure that I tried to figure out how to lower rates. And I drafted several bills my first year in 2016 to lower rates. And what I found out very quickly is that many of the people in the business lobby also own insurance companies. And so when you try to do stuff to lower premiums, they jump right in there and kill your bill. So in 2016 and 2017 and in 2018, my bills were killed to lower your rates. In 2018, we formed a task force. They had 12 months to look at this issue. They met 3 times for an hour and a half, and 6 of the 11 members of that task force were insurance lobbyists. And what happened from that, they filed a bill. They said it was the Omnibus Premium Reduction Act. I read the bill as a lawyer. I told them this is not going to lower rates. And so the bill died because their experts said it would raise rates. So we're having a town hall on the 30th, and that's what we're going to discuss right here in Spring Hill, because there's a lot of bad information being put out about that vote, and I want to bring it all, I want to clear the air on it. So I'll answer that question more when we have time on September 30th.
Thank you. Now answering will be Maddie Preston.
I've told people that my daughter moved to Michigan and the insurance rates are really high there, but they are higher here than they are in Michigan. Now, I realize it takes sometimes more than one mind and one brain to come up with a plausible solution to problems. And I am running for senator, but if I were elected, these are some of the steps I would take to try to reduce our auto insurance premiums. First of all, I'd like to hire someone to work with me who can do some research as to who we need to talk to and how we can get the greatest minds, insurance minds, preferably those who have worked in the insurance business before, ex-auto insurance workers, and sit down around a table and figure out how we can write a bill that will lower our auto insurance premiums, but yet be acceptable to the auto insurance companies. I believe there's such a thing as a win-win situation, but it takes more than one mind, and I believe that together, working with those legislators and with ex-auto insurance agents, that we can come up with a viable way, an outline of a bill that we can put before Congress and will be acceptable, but it's going to require negotiating and working together and getting the right people around the table so that we can come up with that kind of solution. Nobody says it's easy, but I'm not looking for easy. I'm just looking for possible, and it is possible to lower those rates because people are struggling to pay their insurance rates. And if other states can have lower rates than we do, 48 states, then.
And now Robert Mills.
Thank you all for being here and spending this evening with us. Insurance business in Louisiana is in a crisis. This isn't a new issue at all. It's been here for a number of years, but we've really worked ourselves into a problem area now. And Maddie's right. We've got the second highest car insurance rates in the nation. Hopefully you've seen my opinion pieces that I wrote on the high cost of auto insurance. It's been published in the Shreveport, Bossier, Minden papers. Hopefully you saw my opinion piece on the lawsuit abuse, the high cost of lawsuit abuse in Louisiana, also published in Shreveport, Bossier, Minden papers. It's a crisis situation. We've got to get control of this quickly. On the back of a mailer that's well read around here, that we've got to look at the seatbelt gag rule needs to be repealed. We've got to look at the jury trial threshold in Louisiana at $50,000 is substantially higher than anything else in the nation. It's ridiculously high. 34 states have 0 jury trial threshold. You always thought you had the right to a jury trial among your peers. You don't in Louisiana. So we've got to make some changes in that. And then the direct action where insurance companies are sued in an injury case where in fact the insurance company was not part of a car wreck. Why are they in the courts? It just brings more lawyers into the room and a problem, and it's going to have to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, question 2 will be drawn by Maddie Preston. The election process continues to change. Now it is common for out-of-area special interest groups to contribute to campaigns in places they do not live and work. Do you think it's possible to run a campaign without being obligated to special interest groups, especially those whose motives don't benefit the people of District 10?
All right. I believe it is necessary to be able to run a campaign without funds being given by special interest groups. I believe that, and if I win this election, I'll know it for a fact, because I'm running on my own money, which is very little, and I have no real backing financially, and we need more candidates who can do that, not be obligated to someone and someone else's policies just to be funded so that they can run an election. We need more people who can get into politics without having big money behind them. So I do believe it is possible to run a campaign without special interest groups or big money backing you, because it is necessary. The reason you run for office should be because you want to help the people, not necessarily because you want to get policies passed by those who fund you and by those who back you. So it's necessary that we do that. We have to get people to run without being obligated to other people, big companies, individuals. It's necessary. And I'm running my campaign on that premise that I can win because I want to be serving the people, not because I am looking for power and prestige, or I'm not looking for funding from anyone, but if someone wants to help, that's fine too.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from Robert Mills.
Thank you. The election process is a sacred event, and something we have to protect. Out-of-area interest groups, just like everything else. You've got great people involved in trying to affect the outcome of elections that live out of this area. You've got some nefarious people living out of the area that are trying to affect the outcome of these elections. So you were smart enough to find your way here. You're smart enough to realize don't believe a lot of things you see on TV. Don't believe a lot of things you read. Make your own mind up. Look for the source of the information. And you're going to have to do a little bit of homework now with the internet. Literally everybody's an expert, and it has been an unfortunate part of the mass communication. So beware, be an informed consumer, be an informed participant in the election process. There's some great people that are going to be putting out mail information. There's some people that are going to be putting out misinformation in the mail. You're going to have to look at it, make your own adult decision on that. And so good luck. You go back to the Bible, go back to the truth, go back to what you believe. You can do it. I guarantee we're smart enough to work our way through this problem. There's, just as you know, on the telephone, you just don't hardly answer it anymore. So be aware that messages, good and bad, are going to be coming in the mail and on the telephone. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Ryan Gatti.
This is a real big issue. When I was in law school, I worked at the state senate, and you could almost sense that when Somebody like Foster Campbell and his processing tax, the vote was bought before he went down there. And even though he had a great bill to get rid of the income tax and get rid of the sales tax and the severance taxes, I mean, there was probably 300 oil and gas lobbyists in the Senate. And even though it was a great bill for us, it was killed, I think, 36-3. And so what that impressed upon me is that if I ever ran for office, I was going to spend my own money. You know, and I sat down with my wife in 2015. And I said, now look, they said it's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to be a senator. And she said, well, we're not going to take money from other people. And so if you look at my campaign finance reports, I am by far the largest contributor to my campaign. Some folks in my party got so mad at me because I wouldn't cower down on the insurance bill and the abortion bills that I was trying to pass. The Republicans said, well, you're not a real Republican if you don't listen to these people. And they said, you're just like Trump. You won't listen to us. And I thought, well, thank you, Ricky Bobby. That was nice, you know? And so we went back through a lot of that. And I'll tell you, it's one of the most dangerous things right now, even with the $2,500 maximum you can give to a state senator. The super PACs that are sending out mail-outs right now in my race, you need to think about what they're writing and what they're putting out. So I would agree with Robert that you need to look at the truth and you need to see what's out there. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Question 3 will be drawn by Robert Mills. At the end of last year, U.S. News and World Report published an article on how the Walmart heirs are promoting charter schools. How do you feel about charter schools, and more particularly, these that are targeting STEM education to poor students in struggling districts, and do you think that could work in District 36?
How could you not like more education? How could you not like more choice? How could you not like people that are willing to put their own money up to help, one, the disadvantaged, two, push us into the current time frame where we're not getting nearly enough educators that are up on STEM. We're not, we're a little behind the curve. We're way behind the curve in the world sense. So I support charter schools. I support school choice, and particularly support well-run schools, whether they're private, public, or charter. Love education. It's one of the big ways that we're going to get out of the mess we're in. It's a situation we've got to get a workforce trained for the jobs that are coming up with us. It's a different type of workforce. College degrees aren't required. Certificates, high school education with certificate is a perfectly good way to make a good living, and we need to focus on those things. We've done a great job in Northwest Louisiana. We've got some remarkable educational institutions, so charter schools are a part of that, and that's just the way it is today. So I would ask you all to understand that there were bumps in that road early on, but we've got some good charter schools in this area, and I think the days of charter schools are here, and we should promote them and allow them every opportunity, particularly if they're going to market to a sector that's been undereducated or underserved. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we'll hear from Ryan Gatti.
All right, listen up. This may be the most important question of the night. How many of y'all went to public school? Raise your hand. Okay, well, the charter school movement is really a movement to defund public schools. There's a movement for the money to follow the child. So the MFP allocation that Johnny Rowland gets for that child, they want that $4,000 to go to a private charter school. That charter school might be an online charter school. They don't have a janitor, they don't have a facility, but they want the same amount of money that North Webster gets. Well, out of that money North Webster gets, they have to pay 33% of that to retired teachers, and they have to take that residue and educate your child. Well, the movement of the charter school, and I drafted 2 bills to help our public schools against charter schools. They placed them on Charter School Day in Senate Education. And I was battling for public schools against charter schools, and it was a big deal. Both the bills died. And it was a big deal for our teachers. It's the reason the School Board Association and those groups are backing me, because they know I'm going to fight for North Webster. I'm going to fight for Webster Parish schools. There's nothing wrong with private schools. Charter schools are different. There was evidence put on in Senate Education. There were F charter schools taking kids from C and D schools in New Orleans and Shreveport. Let me say that again. F charter schools were taking kids. They were supposed to do it cheaper and better. That is a lie. They can show anywhere in the state where they're doing it cheaper and better. So what happens if 1,000 or 1,300 kids from Webster move over to a Webster charter school? How is the public school going to pay retirement? You see how that's a backhanded way of undoing our public school system? Anybody can see that. So I sat there for 8 hours in Senate Insurance just about battling for public schools. And everybody in there was wearing a yellow shirt. School choice. That's just a code word for bankrupt the public school system. So some people don't like paying property taxes. I know I sure don't. But K through 12 education is the only thing we have. It is a 13-year pipeline that moves children from poverty, where I was, to prosperity. If you're a teacher in here, if you're a principal in here, you need to be very aware of this debate. It's a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Next, we'll hear from Maddie Preston.
Well, I work in the public school system, and it's a good system, but it does have its problems. And I believe that charter schools and public schools can coexist. I know in the public school system, one of the problems I see is that a lot of the students graduate without having any set of skills to function after high school. I have substituted in classes where high school students couldn't even read. And I've seen some of them after graduation, and they don't have jobs. So public schools do have their problems. And public schools also have a problem with the children. Working as a substitute teacher, I see what the teachers go through in the public school system, and I take my hat off to them, and they deserve the pay raise that they got. But a lot of the kids come from homes where they don't even know what discipline is. And the teacher has to spend a lot of time sometimes trying to keep the children seated instead of teaching them all. And then you have the special ed kids in the classroom that aren't keeping up, and the teacher has a curriculum she has to follow, so she can't.
Thank you, Ms. Preston. Now we'll have closing remarks. You will each have 2 minutes. First, we'll hear from Ryan Gatti.
I want to thank y'all for coming out tonight. You know, over the last 4 years, Susan and I have spent thousands of hours in our district. In 2015, when we won, we were in Haiti on a mission trip. I think we even thought we weren't going to win, okay? And we got back home, and Skylar Marvin said, next time I run for something, you send me on that mission trip, because it worked. And so what happened over the last 4 years, we spent thousands of hours getting to know you. From Spring Hill to Castor and Saline, from Homer to Halton, Plain Dillon. I mean, I've put 150,000 miles on my old Suburban. And what I've learned, and I visited every school in the district. Every school. We brought them a U.S. flag and a pelican flag. I told them the story of the mama pelican and how the pelican on our flag really represents Christ on the cross. Romans 12:1-2, a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. But I want to tell you, we've had some battles in Webster Parish. But we battled for prayer. Some of your top students from North Webster, from Lakeside and Minden, we rented a bus. They came down to Baton Rouge and they testified about school prayer in Senate Bill 512. And that they said it's important for our teachers to lead prayer. And the senators were like, where did these kids come from? I said, Webster Parish. They said, isn't that up at north? I said, yeah, they woke up at 5 this morning. And they passed that bill out of the Senate. It passed unanimous out of the Senate, unanimous out of the House. And now teachers, although they can't lead prayer like I want them to, they can bow their head. That's the best I could get, but I'm going back next year to get more. We also did something in the Senate that was a big deal. We requested that the governor do reoccurring revenue for reoccurring expenses. And that's why we have a 1% surplus. A 1% surplus is better than a 2% deficit. And we're fighting for that. We've also been working with Fiberbond the last 2 months. And I've been on the phone nonstop with Graham Walker, the governor, the head of LED. And I was hoping tonight I could tell you we have good news. We got some really good news, but hopefully we'll have a press release here in the next few days. The Walker family really wants to stay here, and I think we've worked out most of what they need. So thank y'all for coming tonight. If you have any questions, come back on September the 30th. We're going to feed you. We're not just going to let you sit there and stare at us, okay?
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Maddie Preston.
Abraham Lincoln said, "This nation shall have a new birth of freedom, government of the people, by the people, and for the people, shall not perish from the earth." If we are going to face the challenges before us, we're going to have to work together. It's going to have to be politician and legislator with the people, putting our heads together and putting ideas forth so that we can solve some of the problems that are before us. And I just believe that when it comes down to it, it's the people who can make a big difference. The politician works for the people. And if there are policies that the people feel should be instituted, then the demands should be made on the politician, because you are the ones who put them in office, and you're the ones who can take them out of office. So let's work together, unite and work together, and look at some of these things that need to be changed and make some demands that they be changed. No doubt about it. So I would say in order for us to have a brighter tomorrow, we have to work together. If I win this election, contact me, communicate with me in person, over the phone, email, postal mail, any kind of way with problems, complaints, and issues, and let's work together and bring about some much needed change for all of us, because we're all valuable and we're all in the same boat. Our destinies are tied together. So it behooves us to join hands and look at what needs to be done and begin to implement some change. And that's what I want to do. I want to be instrumental in implementing change for all of us so we can have better lives and we can get along, because we're all Americans, we're Louisianans, and divided we will fall, but united we can stand together and be strong and help each other enhance our economic lives.
Thank you, Ms. Preston. Now we'll hear from Robert Mills.
Maddie, you've done a great job in the forum we had in Minden and tonight. Thank you for participating in this. It's tough being a challenger in a race with an incumbent. And Ryan, congratulations, you've worked very hard. You had a 4-year head start on Maddie and I, and we're playing catch up. There's no question about it. But every 4 years we go to the polls for exactly this reason. If you haven't seen what you wanted from Baton Rouge in the last 4 years, you need to look at possibly making a change. If you haven't gotten what you wanted out of Baton Rouge, you're not going to get anything different if you put the same people in the same box. So I'm asking you to look very closely at the governor's race. I'm asking you to look very closely at Senate 36. I think changes are required in both of those locations. Go backwards a little bit on the education issue. Again, I'll never waver from more education is better, more options are better. I don't think there's a lot of risk that a thinking adult is going to take a child from a public school and put them in a failing charter school. An F-scored school, it's public information. You're going to be moving people out of the F schools into a better public school if that's the case. So give thinking adults that option. I trust you to make a good decision. It's your children. It's the most important thing you own. Have responsibility for. So I think we're fine with, and I agree with Maddie that we're fine. We can coexist with charter schools. But think closely about the advantages that we've had with incumbents. And give us a little bit of give us the time, do some homework, study the challengers in this race, what we're proposing to do, look at the endorsements that we have. They are important, and of course, my close friend Congressman Mike Johnson is leading the charge in trying to get Louisiana on a better track. I'm willing to work with him, John Kennedy, Attorney General Jeff Landry, everybody that loves Louisiana. We want change. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates.
Thank you and good evening. Again, I would like to welcome you tonight to this event. Certainly hope hope you will find it most informative. Also, special welcome to the candidates that has chosen to participate tonight. You will have the opportunity to meet each candidate this evening during the program. We will begin with Senator candidates Ryan Gatti, Robert Mills, and Maddie Preston. Thank you. Each of you would have an opportunity to provide an opening statement of 2 minutes. We'll start with Mr. Gatti.
Thank y'all. Can y'all hear me okay in the back? Really excited to be here. My wife and I have spent thousands of hours in Senate District 36. We have visited every town from Plain Dillon to Saline, from Homer to Houghton, all over the place. And this is one of the most special rooms you can be in District 36. Like the mayor said, he wanted to welcome you, but I just want to tell you, this room houses the St. Jude's auction, raises more money per capita than anywhere in the United States, but it also houses the Chamber Banquet, the Back to School Bash, the NRA Banquet, all of these things that I've attended. And the reason I attend those things over the last 4 years so that you can hold me accountable. I don't know how many times my wife has said, "Why were you so long in Minden? I saw you on your phone. You were in Minden." I said, "We were talking about issues important to Minden." So we love the town of Minden. We love it a lot. In the last few weeks, we've been working on some big issues dealing with fiber bond and infrastructure and things like that. And as your state senator, I've really enjoyed building relationships with you, but also relationships in Baton Rouge where we can bring back home what we need for our area. So I appreciate you listening to us tonight. I appreciate you giving us your time, and it means a lot that you would be here. Now, I've enjoyed being your senator, and we've gotten a lot done. We've done a lot to help with the school system, with the prayer issues that happened last year. We fought hard to keep prayer in school. And I know I have 30 seconds left, but I want to let you know this. We fought hard to keep prayer in school. We had 400 kids come to my house that led a worship service. And they said, "Senator Gatti, we want you to fight for us to keep prayer in school," and we did. And we're going to continue to battle for those things that are important to Minden and important to all of District 36. Thank you all for your time tonight.
Mr. Mills.
Thank you, and I wanted to express my appreciation to everybody that was involved in getting this forum together. It's congratulations, Minden, and not every parish and not every large town has been this interested in the process. So thank you for the hospitality shown. And again, my name is Robert Mills. I'm running for State Senate District 36. My wife Sheila and I live in the Kingston Plantation subdivision just south of the town of Benton. But I'm no stranger to Northwest Louisiana. I've been here 66 years, and in fact, I grew up going to family reunions in Minden with my great-grandmother, Mary Lou Richardson. Sibley was her married name, and so this town holds special meaning to me and my family. They had been here since the middle 1800s, but I'm relatively new to the district, but I'm not relatively new to Bossier, Webster, and Claiborne and Bienville. I was involved in the oil and gas business for many years, a longtime employee with Calumet Specialty Products. That our first refinery was bought in Bossier Parish, our second refinery in Webster Parish, and ultimately our fourth in Caddo Parish. So we've got now 700 employees in North Louisiana, and we're very proud of that, the economic impact that we've made. I was a part of that. I've retired from Calumet. My full-time job would be state senator for Senate 36, and I'm asking for your consideration. I want you to look at my website, robertmillsforsenate.com, my Facebook page, Robert Mills for Senate. Being 110,000 people, I haven't had a chance to meet a lot of you personally, but look at the endorsements, look at the recommendations, and pay attention to this race. It's important. Thank you very much.
Ms. Preston.
Good evening. My name is Maddie Preston. I'm a candidate for Louisiana State Senator. I live in Minden. I was born and raised here. I am a candidate for senator because I want to be instrumental in making a difference in the lives of the people in this state. When I told my daughter I was thinking about running for senator, she said, "Mom, you'll make a good senator because you're fair." And I am. That's one of my qualities. I am fair. As I have campaigned across this district, I have come across people who have had some complaints. One of those complaints is that women make 80 cents on a dollar and men earn $1 on a dollar. And we need to look at providing fairness and justice for those people. Another one was that, well, people are struggling to make their auto insurance premiums. My daughter moved to Michigan, where the insurance rate is highest in this nation. Louisiana is second to Michigan. I believe that there's a way that we can bring those premiums down so that people don't have to struggle so much to make those payments. I believe that we have to work together in order to face the challenges that are before us. And if we work together to ease each other's burdens, I think we can triumph and have a state full of people who are economically well off and who are benefiting from the policies and bills that we should be putting on the floor that will help us all. I spent a lot of years in California. I went to College of Notre Dame. I graduated with a bachelor's in politics, government, and public administration. I am a licensed and ordained preacher of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I work as a substitute teacher in the school system. And if I'm elected as your senator, I will be accessible. I believe, as Woodrow Wilson said, the ear of the leader should be attuned to the voice of the people. And
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Now to our first question. Each candidate will alternate who responds first, so each of you will have the opportunity to provide the first answer. The first question will start with Mr. Gatti. What is one of the major factors that contribute to you running for state senator? What experience do you have that will make you a qualified leader? What makes you the best candidate?
Thank you for the question. You know, 4 years ago, I thought I knew what it was to be a senator. I knocked on your doors. We knocked on every door. We did all those things. But now that I've been in the Senate and I've drafted 62 bills and 21 have become law, I know that it takes a lot more than what I thought it did. You have to have an ability to reach across the aisle and work with someone. And that's what we did with foster care. I met with foster parents, and they said, hey, one of the biggest problems we have is kids are aging out when they turn 18, and there might be a junior or a sophomore in high school. So we changed the law. But I had to work with people from both parties. I had to work with the governor. And though I've been beat up about that, working with people from the other side of the aisle, I'll tell you this, it made a big difference to those foster parents. And when it came to taxes and when it came to balancing the budget, it was hard work. It was very expensive, but we did it. Thank you.
Mr. Mills.
Hello, thank you. I bring my 45 years experience in the business world to the table, and I've balanced a lot of budgets. I've conducted a lot of research, and we've been able to put together some very successful partnerships, and over time learn how to operate inside of a difficult legal environment, difficult regulatory environment, and been successful in working in Baton Rouge with the various agencies that regulate exploration, production, and refining, of which I've got years of experience in all of those. So it's really a business background. I wouldn't have it any other way. This has been my life. I was born into it, and I'd like to continue the business of trying to scrub a budget, pass rules, pass regulations that'll make your life better, make my life better. At my age, obviously, this isn't about me. This is about trying to make the world better around us and for my children and my grandchildren. So please consider Robert Mills for Senate District 36. Thank you.
Ms. Preston.
I am running for senator because my desire is to benefit low-income, middle-income taxpayers. I ran across quite a few people during this campaign who said to me, I don't vote because I don't believe it'll make a difference. That made me sad because a politician and a preacher are both leaders, and they should be servants of the people. So everyone should feel welcome to share their burdens and complaints, and confident that the leaders will hear and begin to work with them with whatever problem that they have. And I believe that that's a very good quality to have, the desire to work with people who are hurting, the desire to sit down at the table, make a blueprint, make an outline, brainstorm, work together, get the best economic minds to formulate a solution to the problems that challenge us. We are all tied together. Our destinies are tied together.
Thank you. Mr. Mills, there's a lot of talk surrounding the Second Amendment now. Do you feel there needs to be any changes to it? And what step, if any, needs to be taken to curb gun violence in our communities?
Thank you. The Second Amendment, I've just got such great respect for the Constitution as written. I just would be one to say that let's go back to the basics and read exactly what the Second Amendment says, and let's believe it, let's do it, and let's keep America great. We've got a gun violence problem, and it's related to people's conduct. It's not related to guns as much as it is the dysfunctional society that unfortunately is growing. We've got mental health issues in the country that we've got to consider before gun ownership, and the effects of gun ownership with the mentally ill. And there's many, many problems involved with the whole process. But I am a purist in the sense that I don't want to change the Constitution unless we just absolutely have to, and I don't see that we need to, and the Second Amendment as written should stand. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Preston.
I am a registered Democrat, but I do believe in the Second Amendment. I do believe that law-abiding citizens have a right to purchase guns and to carry guns and to keep those guns with them. After all, it is not the gun that pulls the trigger. It is a person whose finger is on that trigger. So I believe we need to look in that direction. We need to look at the criminal. And if we do any investigating, we need to investigate what's happening in our society to make people perform these kinds of atrocities. I believe we should be tougher on violent crime than we are in this state and in this country. And I believe that we need to circulate the premise that all life is valuable, from the moment of conception to the 100-year-old centenarian. Life is valuable. And once we can get that idea circulating in our society, people's attitudes can change about life and death. And someone who commits an atrocity, killing someone in cold blood, a lot of the times we just put them on.
Thank you. Mr. Gatti.
I strongly support the Second Amendment. I've helped the NRA on bills in the Senate and in the House and the state. We do know that there's a proliferation of gun violence, but there's a lot of fear too. I mean, if they tried to scare me and said, Ryan, we're going to pass a law, we're going to take your guns, and I said, well, good luck. I don't even know where all my guns are. I mean, we've been collecting them for 40 years, you know. There's a lot of fear out there. My girls know how to shoot. My family taught me how to shoot when I was young. And we hunt, we fish, but we also have our guns to protect our home. I live on 7 acres. I don't have a gate. It takes 911 15 minutes to get to my house. So I have to make sure that I am well armed and well prepared. Now let's look at the flip side of that, is that we do have a mental health issue. And so when folks ask us to cut the DHH budget, I want y'all to know this. When we take $1 of your money out of that budget, we lose out on $9 federal matching funds. So when we want to invest in Brentwood and juvenile mental health, I'm more than happy to find $1 or $2 to put there, because when you cut $100 million out of juvenile mental health, which happened under the Jindal administration, it equated to $1 billion out of mental health in our area, and we know the effects of that. We see that. So we do need to get stronger on crime, which we have. If you have a gun and you're a felon, it's a felony and automatic sentence. And so we will continue to work with the mental health issue and also with controlling crime in our areas.
Ms. Preston, what is the most important challenges that's facing our state, and how do you propose to address them?
There are a lot of challenges, but I think one of the most serious is the economic challenge. There are people who get out of bed every morning and go to work and come home and still aren't able to support their families. I am told that there are people who have to make a decision every month as to whether to buy food or get their prescriptions filled. Our economy is one of the most important challenges that I believe we have, because when you can't feed your family or when you can't pay your bills, I believe sometimes that causes people to look in another direction to attain the finances that they need. And that avenue usually leads to crime. So I think we need to work hard on changing the structure of our tax system right now. Huge corporations like Amazon and Netflix, I am reading, don't pay taxes, but their incomes are like 900 billion as in B dollars a year. So that leaves the middle income and the low income to make up the difference. I believe that if we begin to look at that and begin to restructure it. Thank you.
Mr. Gatti,
Could you repeat? No, I'm sorry.
what are the most important challenges facing our state, and how do you propose to address it?
Yeah, there's several that I've seen that we've worked on the last 4 years, and whatever the problem is, typically special interest comes in and kills your bill that you're trying to work on. But there's two things that we worked on that were successful. Number one, when I was running in 2015, Planned Parenthood was selling baby parts from abortion. We all know that was happening. So I was bush hogging one day, and God put it in my head to make it a crime to sell baby parts from an abortion. If you kill a woman who's pregnant, it's 2 murders. And if I can't give you my kidney, I can give you my kidney, I can't sell it to you. That's a felony. So we had a small gap in the law, and because of my training as a lawyer, I looked at Title 14 and I said, how can we allow someone to sell a kidney or a brain from an abortion? So I drafted a bill that said if you buy, sell, barter for, or sell any baby parts from planned abortion, you get a 20 to 50-year sentence in prison and a $50,000 fine. That bill passed unanimously with 67 co-authors, and then the governor signed it. Within 3 days of it becoming law, the abortion clinic in Bossier shut down. So we were the first state to pass that law. Now, you may not have read about that in the paper because it's not really convenient for a paper to write about a young Republican senator working with a Democrat governor to shut down an abortion clinic, but it happened in your state. The biggest issue we had at that time. We have other issues that we've dealt with that are bigger than that, some that are more important to us, but that one showed we could work together to be the first in the nation to fix something.
Thank you. Mr. Mills.
Thank you. And my biggest concern today is jobs, jobs, and jobs. The economics of Louisiana are dependent upon a workforce that produces, pays taxes, raises families, and generationally continues on. We've got population loss, we've got job loss. We're one of the worst states in the nation in terms of surviving in this significant economy that the Trump administration has built. But constant attacks by the current governor, John Bel Edwards, have really decimated parts of the oil and gas business. Constant attacks by this governor have put a real crimp in the major manufacturing businesses. And my first goal is to try to create more jobs. We will try to put money in the pocket of people with insurance reform. We'll definitely try to work tort reform And of course, the fiscal reform, the third leg of that stool, is important. And I propose that the Louisiana checkbook, which is modeled after the Ohio checkbook, introduced to us by the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, is the first step to getting fiscal reform, find out where the money really is, try to identify the slush funds, see where money comes in, see where money goes out. Fiscal reform is a piece of that. We've got to get control of this budget. We've got to get control of our spending. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Gatti, what do you think the biggest problem Louisiana faces with K through 12 education, and do you have a plan to work toward correcting the problem?
So K through 12 education is really important. I mean, how many of y'all went to a public school? Raise your hand. Okay. So K through 12 education, you have to view it as a pipeline. It takes kids from poverty, and in 13 short years, it gives them access to prosperity. It's one of the few things that we invest in the state that actually allows this to happen. I grew up working at my dad's wrecking yard. I went to good schools, public schools. I got a scholarship to LSU. I went to LSU Law School because a teacher told me to. I should have listened to someone else. But I went to law school, and then I became a lawyer. Later, I became a judge. So I appreciated that K through 12 education. The biggest problem we're facing right now in K through 12 is there's forces that want to underfund it so that kids can't move from poverty to prosperity. And I've done everything I can to expose that and show when people start talking about rewriting the Constitution, the only thing in the Constitution they want to rewrite is the money dedicated to K through 12 schools. And I can't imagine having Mr. Rowland as a superintendent go down to Baton Rouge and beg and plead for his money. We protected that money so he wouldn't have to do that. Now, are they perfect? Schools aren't perfect. Kids aren't perfect. Parents aren't perfect. But it's the best system I have seen to move kids from poverty to prosperity, and I'll always protect the funding for that. Thank you.
Mr. Mills.
Well, I agree that the K through 12 education system is an integral part of getting our workforce prepared. It's step one. Certificates beyond that are step two. But we've got to get a better process, more unified process of running the systems hand in hand, getting these improvements that are required. There's technology, there's training, there's improvements in education that have to be implemented. We've got to get behind the superintendent, this superintendent or the next one. We've got to get behind them, unify, and stop the fighting inside the system. We've got to come together. We've got to educate these kids better. We've got to graduate more children. We've got inequality in the systems. I tutor third graders at J.S. Clark on Tuesday afternoons normally. I couldn't go this afternoon. But the inequalities in the system are just astounding. We can't continue this. We've got to go ahead and get control of this system. And I think management is the key, and we're just going to have to get a superintendent that we like, that we appreciate, and that we stand behind. And we're going to have to support these teachers as they do their job and keep pushing for more certified teachers.
Ms. Preston.
I was happy to find out that the teachers got their long-awaited pay raise. They do deserve it. I work in the school system. I know they deserve it. And the K through 12 is important because they're young ones who come from a home where they don't have education stressed, where they're not read books. They don't have books in their home. So that's very important. There is a problem that I've found out about since I've been substitute teaching. We are graduating students from high school who can't read, and that's a travesty. When they get out of high school and they can't read, it's hard for them to get a job. I've substituted some of those students, and I see them now on the outside, and they're not working. We need to look at that and confront that and find a solution for that. Special ed is a program set aside for certain students, and it allows these students to be passed from grade to grade, and they can't even read. So that's something we have to look at too. But the education in this country, I believe, is good because it's free. If it wasn't free, a lot of students wouldn't be able to get the education that they get right now. It's good, but it needs work. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, each of you will be allowed 1 minute for a closing remark. We'll begin with Mr. Gatti.
Thank you all for coming tonight. We appreciate you so much. There's a lot of big issues that have come up in the last 4 years, and I've enjoyed being your senator. I've enjoyed getting to know you. We spent thousands of hours in the district getting to know each and every community and the needs. I visited every school in the district. I brought them an American flag and a pelican flag and told them the story of the mama pelican. But then when we're down in Baton Rouge, that's where the real work happens. And I want you to know, as your senator, I stay up at night worrying about fiber bond. I stay on the phone with them. I want to make sure we get our roads and bridges fixed so they will stay here. And we're very close to getting that knocked out. Hopefully we'll be able to make some kind of announcement, Mayor, in the next few days. And that's very important. But I would be honored if you'd allow Susan and I to serve with you. Many of you reached out to us when our daughter died in 2017. You reached out to us like we were your family, and I will never forget that. That motivated me to work even harder, and it helped us get through our grief. But we'll continue to work for you, and thank you for your time tonight.
Mr. Mills.
Maddie, I appreciate almost everything you said, but school is not free. It's one of the biggest pieces of our budget, and we pay a lot of money for it, and we've got to do a little bit better job, maybe a lot better job of moving those dollars to the right spot to get education and to be successful like we want. I'm committed to work with all the parties involved. If you've noticed the endorsements I have, I've got lined up substantial support for my efforts in Baton Rouge if I'm elected, and I look forward to going down there and attacking all these problems with respect, with integrity, and being a part of the winning team down there. So send Robert Mills for Senate 36 to Baton Rouge. Thank you.
Ms. Preston.
Yes, Mr. Mills, when I said free, I meant to the students. It's free for the students, and I understand what you meant. But if I'm elected your senator, I implore you to communicate. Communicate with me by email, by text, by phone, in person, any way. Voice your complaints, your issues of concern, and come with some proposals for solutions and suggestions. And let's work together and attack these issues. United we stand, but divided we fall. And in unity there is strength. So there's a lot we can accomplish if we work together, outline the problems, and find these solutions. I'm an ideal person. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate your desire to serve this district. We wish each of you the very best. You may now exit the stage. Thank you.
This is the first time that I'm aware of, and I believe Mr. Bamberg and I, in discussing this when we talked about it, this is something we look forward to doing in 2019 and moving forward. In discussing, our local government and our state government and working together, we decided that we thought it would be great to be able to put names with faces on our candidates and our future elected officials, that in going forward in the future we could all work together in a much stronger and much better way. So we're really excited, but I know y'all didn't come here to hear me talk tonight, so I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, Sonia Bales.
Much, President Cheatham, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to this very important conversation hosted by the Bossier Parish School Board. My name is Sonia Bales, and I will be serving as moderator for this evening's forum. Free appropriate public education, or FAPE, is an educational right that all students in the United States are guaranteed. Yet funding is primarily a state and local responsibility. Education is important to us all, affecting all aspects, from the workforce and employment opportunities, economic development, property values, crime, and society as a whole. Tonight, we've invited the candidates for Louisiana Senate Districts 36 and 37, and Bossier Parish Police Jury Districts 2, 3, 4, and 6, in which there are contested races, to share with us their stance on issues related to education, so our public, as well as our school board, can form an educated opinion when casting their vote in the October primary election. Now, the format will work by each candidate being given 3 minutes for introductory remarks, followed by 2 questions for our senatorial candidates, and 1 question for our police jury candidates. Vice President Dennis Bamberg will serve as our timekeeper. So without further ado, we begin with our Senate District 36 race. And it is my pleasure to introduce our candidates, and we will be going in alphabetical order tonight, beginning with Ryan Gatti from Bossier City, followed by Robert Mills from Benton, and Maddie Preston from Minden. So first, we will hear from Senator Gatti, and you have 3 minutes to introduce yourself, and then I will ask you 2 questions.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Sonia. My name is Ryan Gatti. I currently represent District 36, which includes Bossier, Webster, Claiborne, and Bienville, and I've really enjoyed serving as your senator the last 4 years. Visited every school in the district. In fact, we provided a Louisiana flag and a U.S. flag to every school in the district that needed one. Susan and I grew up in Bossier Parish. We lived here our whole lives except for when we went off to school. Susan ended up completing her PhD at LSU Baton Rouge, and I completed my law degree. And we could have lived anywhere, but we moved right back to Bossier, almost exactly in the neighborhood where she grew up. I attended Plantation Park, Apollo, Green Acres, and Airline. Susan attended Meadowview, Cope, and Airline, and that's where we met, in F-Wing at Airline. It was a great thing for me that we met, because from that we've had 4 daughters. Catherine is a graduate of Airline High School. She's in the honors college at TCU. She really enjoys it, and Airline prepared her for that endeavor. My second daughter, Elizabeth, is a junior at Airline. She just made a 33 on her ACT. She plays volleyball. She is getting everything she can out of the education that Sonia just talked about. And of course, you know, we had a special needs daughter, Rebecca, and she was actually a student at Kerr. And they took really good care of her with the things that she could do. But she passed away from her brain injury on January the 31st of 2017. And lastly, we have Charlotte, because we are pro-life and prolific. And so Charlotte was our 4th daughter, and she's in the 4th grade at W.T. Lewis. We also have family members that have they're active duty and retired with the school board. But I think it's important in this race, specifically in the Senate race, and this is a little different answer than our presentation I'll give anywhere else, because I know a lot of y'all. We've worked together the last 4 years on some really big issues. But one of the biggest things that's going to change in the next 4 years is the proliferation of charter schools and private schools in our area. People are chomping at the bit. And I drafted 3 bills my first year that would help limit that. And those bills were profusely fought, tooth and nail, the entire time. And so I can promise you as your state senator that I'll always put public school first, because K through 12 education is really a pipeline if you think about it. We take kids from poverty and put them in prosperity in less than 13 years. We give a lot of opportunities to kids that wouldn't have them any other way. So that free public education is a big deal to me. I grew up working at my dad's wrecking yard. He couldn't teach me physics, but Mr. Rondo at Airline could. Miss Allred taught me trigonometry. I had great coaches that were also my civics teachers, and they would motivate me on and off the field to do the right thing. So I think Bossier Parish is a shining example. That's what I tell folks at the Capitol. Bossier Parish schools are a shining example of how things should be done in public schools. So I appreciate your time tonight, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Now, our Senate candidates have 2 minutes to answer each question posed to them. And you did just touch on this, but the first question being, the charter school movement is growing throughout Louisiana, and they receive the same amount of state MFP funding as public school systems, yet are not held to the same academic requirements nor services they must provide. What is your position on charter schools? Do you support having them in Bossier and Webster parishes? And how should they be funded?
You know, we've talked a lot in our town hall meetings about charter schools, and I took some advice of some people here in the room, and I filed 3 bills, and those 3 bills were very simple. I just wanted to test if the legislature was going to continue to put unfunded mandates of curriculum and try to drag down our scores and then say, well, we need to send a charter school in to save the day, because that's what they did in New Orleans. And so I filed 3 bills to stop the proliferation of charter schools and to help ensure that our public schools would receive their fair share. The first one said, Senate Bill 147, it provides for charter schools to pay a proportionate share of the local school's retirement cost. And that's a big deal because about 30-something% of the MFP goes to pay retirement costs. So when an online charter school steals 100 students from Bossier Parish, they don't have to pay any retirement cost. That's a net for them. So my bill said, let's leave 32 to 34% of the MFP back with the parish where the child lives or resides according to census data. The second bill basically said that, we're an AB district all the time. We do excellent work here in Bossier. Now, I didn't mention Bossier's name, but what I said was if an AB district is an AB district, they should be able to override or reject Bessie's push for a charter school in our parish. And it made sense because charter schools were designed because they could do it cheaper and they could do it better. Well, if we're doing it at an excellent level, we don't need that charter school help. Well, of course, those two bills and another one were set on Charter School Day at the Capitol. And so I had to sit there in Senate Education for about 8 hours debating this bill. Federation for Children, Lobby, North PAC, they all came to the table. They turned in red cards. And they said, no, the MFP should follow the child. We don't care about your unfunded accrued liabilities. And then they said, an AB district, that's where we want charter schools. Thank you.
Reasons is pay. Yet an effort in Bossier Parish to elevate salaries and make them competitive with other districts was soundly defeated. Do you believe a raise is warranted? And if so, what are your thoughts on how to fund it?
I think a raise is warranted. It's a big deal. The starting salary is about $44,000. You'll have about a $260 million budget. You have tons of unfunded mandates and curriculum. And I know you're going through the process now of just kind of looking at your budget and trying to find ways to save that money. A true pay raise for our teachers that they deserve would be about $24 to $26 million. And I know there was a run to do it through property taxes because, quite frankly, half your budget is property taxes right now. That's where you get your revenue. Probably 24 to 27% comes from a sales tax, and the rest is made up in other places. Or the MFP makes up about 47%, ad valorem taxes are the other part, and then you have sales tax bringing up the rear. I think they do deserve the raise. And I think that right now we're in that tough process of cobbling together a compromise. I've made you all aware and I've made the chamber aware that I'm here to mediate. I'm here to do whatever it takes to move that forward. I thought it was kind of tough the way the vote worked out because it demoralized a lot of my friends who are teachers and coaches. But I do think a compromise is on the way, and the things that I'm hearing from board members here, the things I'm hearing from the chamber is, the motions are starting to drop down. They're starting to see that, hey, a starting salary of $44,000 isn't really going to attract anybody to come to Bossier Parish, even though we offer them great things. So I think what you'll see down the line is a compromise form, maybe a portion of a sales tax, maybe a portion of a property tax, maybe not a raise for everyone, maybe a raise for some, but I think that compromise is still working its way through, and I've always been an advocate for that. But once again, I'm y'all's employee. I wait for you to tell me what to do because I don't know everything about what you do. But I want to come alongside you and help you so that we can keep Bossier Parish the best in the state.
Thank you so much, Senator Gatti.
Thank you.
Our next candidate is Robert Mills. Mr. Mills, I'll ask you to come to the podium. You have 3 minutes for introductory remarks. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I want to first thank the Bossier Parish School Board for hosting tonight's forum, and I want to then compliment the professional educators and the support staffs in the schools of Senate District 36, which of course you're aware is very, very large, encompassing most of Bossier Parish, all of Webster Parish, some Claiborne, and some Bienville Parish. So there's a number of school systems involved. We're going to talk about Bossier Parish mostly tonight, but you've got to recognize that there's quite a bit of diversity in the education system, quite a bit of diversity in the students in Senate 36, and substantially difference in the amount of talent and funding available to the school system. So congratulate Bossier Parish specifically on the accomplishments they have and the success they've had in tackling these tough issues today. The Bossier Parish Schools, with its foresight in building the cutting-edge BIPSL facility, Jada Spillers has done a great job out there. I've toured it several times. People from all over the state have come to see it. My friend Sharon Hewitt has been here at least twice that I'm aware of, and it's catching attention, deserved attention all through the state. Again, keep it up. It's one of those things that, as a businessman, encourages me that we will be able to educate, train, and produce good, talented people to come into the workforce. And let me tell you, jobs is the key to us staying on track and getting in the rest of the state on track for prosperity that we deserve and that we've seen in the past and that we've let get away from us. So if elected to Senate 36, I'll be your voice for education and educating children today. It's good for this. It's good for everybody. It's absolutely required. It's good for America. So thank you again, and I look forward to serving. In 36, if that's what you decide. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. And we'll pose the same two questions to you with 2 minutes for response time. The first question being, the charter school movement is growing throughout Louisiana and receives the same amount of state MFP funding as public school systems, although they are not held to the same academic requirements nor services they must provide. What is your position on charter schools? Do you support having them in Bossier and Webster parishes? And how should they be funded?
Well, I'm a fan of education, all education, and I don't want to say that I would not suggest that charter schools could be allowed in areas where they're needed. Again, with the diversity of Senate District 36, we've got some areas of the state that of that district that are underserved in terms of education. Not so in Bossier Parish. So how do you legislate state law that deals with everything but Bossier Parish? You really can't do that. And so we've got a dilemma that we've got to allow alternative education where required and where needed, and we've got to be sure that that never competes with high quality public education. I'm a product of public education and then ultimately Louisiana State University. So I respect that, and it is very, very difficult to explore some of the newer things, newer trends in education, the science technology parts of it. I don't want to preclude anything, but I don't want to kill the golden goose either. A high quality public education, high quality schools have to be protected, have to be properly funded, but you have to have respect for those parts of the state of Louisiana that are in dire need of any education. And I contend that a charter school will not survive in a good school district. So I go back to my basic tenet where competition is going to take care of a lot of that. But I understand your concerns on dollars leaking out of the system. That can be addressed, should be addressed, and is a function of you need to help me understand what we've got to do to protect the good schools and what we've got to do to develop, alternate education where it's required or needed.
Thank you. Second question, fewer college students than ever before majoring in education, resulting in a growing teacher shortage nationwide. One of the reasons cited is pay. Yet an effort in Bossier Parish to elevate salaries and make them competitive with other districts was soundly defeated. Do you believe a raise is warranted? And if so, what are your thoughts on how to fund it?
Well, you'll be pleased that probably everybody stands here today will say yes, a raise was needed. But look at those that can really help get that done. And so I come from the private sector, the business sector. We sell ice to Eskimos. We've got to help you market the needs of your district. We've got to help you package that, put it out, that the public feels that the whatever the source of the revenue is justified and targeted for the needs of the children, and as best you can deal with the children. This is all about the children. The teachers are a tool to educate these children. They're vital parts of that, and you just have to convince the general public that these things are required, and it's going to require a collaborative effort with the business community. I'm a member of Shreveport Bossier Committee 100 that's worked very closely in Caddo Parish. I've offered that the Committee of 100 for Shreveport Bossier and some of our friends, and heard McElroy or Roberts Cherry would be willing to help you package a message when you're ready to go back and try this again. And I think with a lot of help and some preparation. You know, obviously you're going to be back looking for revenue before long, and it's going to be something that you need to be careful with, open with, and as best you can, you know, have all the homework done to be sure that the public understands the need and the justification of it. So it's something I'll be glad to help you with. I've got friends that would be, you know, very interested. We've seen it successfully done in other parishes. Pretty big bump in the road this last time. Let's get over that. Let's heal up. Let's, you know, get back to the business of educating and getting teachers paid properly and retain them.
Robert Mills, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. The final candidate in the Senate District 36 race is Maddie Preston. Ms. Preston, you have 3 minutes to make your opening remarks.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Maddie Preston. I live in Minden. I was born and raised in Minden, and I am a candidate for the Louisiana State Senate. I went to high school in Webster Parish in Minden, and after high school, I went to California to stay with my sister. While I was out there, I got a BA degree in politics, government, and public administration. I made my friends and my enemies, and I decided after some years to return to Minden. After returning to Minden, I obtained a license. I was licensed and ordained as a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and I worked as an assistant pastor for a while, and then I stepped down. Right now, I am a substitute teacher in the school system in Webster Parish. I am standing before you today because I would like to be instrumental in implementing change in some of the policies that we have in Louisiana. I developed this interest when President Obama had just finished his 2 terms and he was making a speech. He said, if you don't like the way things are, if you want to change some things, grab a clipboard and a pen. So after the 2016 election, I decided I would do just that. And that's why I'm here today, because I want to work at instituting new policies and maybe modifying some that we already have. I am a fair person. When I told my daughter that I was going to run for the Senate, she said, Mom, you'd make a good senator because you are fair. You will not take sides with your own kids if you think they are wrong. And I do believe in justice, because the last part of our Pledge of Allegiance says, and justice for all. And I see some areas where I would like to see justice instituted. One of those areas is women's pay. From what I read, women are paid 80 cents on a dollar and men are paid $1 on a dollar. We need justice in that area also. And also in the area of auto insurance, I think that because 48 states have lower insurance than we do, that we should work on lowering the auto insurance in Louisiana, because there are people who are struggling to pay their auto insurance premiums, and there are people who are driving without insurance because they cannot afford to pay the premiums. So there are some things I wanted to change so that we all can work together. If we can work together, I believe we can bring about some change that will be beneficial to all of us.
Thank you so much, Ms. Preston. So you have the same 2 questions that we will pose to you. The first one being, the charter school movement is growing throughout Louisiana and receives the same amount of state MFP funding as public school systems, although they are not held to the same academic requirements nor services they must provide. What is your position on charter schools? Do you support them being in Bossier and Webster parishes, and how should they be funded? And you have 2 minutes on the clock.
As I say, I am a substitute teacher in the school system in Webster Parish. And I've seen that there's a lot lacking as far as the skills that the students carry with them after high school. I've substituted in classes in the 12th grade, and I have had to read papers, read tests to 12th graders because they couldn't read, but yet they graduate with a high school diploma. So I think there's a lot lacking there in Webster Parish in the school system, and I believe that diversity is good. I believe competition is good. And if in the charter school we can have kids graduating who can read, who move away from the school system with a good set of skills so that they can function in the outside world. I believe that that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, but we need students who are able and capable of operating after high school. And I know that in Webster Parish, that's a real challenge, because I see some of the students that I substituted in school, after school, not able to get a job because they cannot read well. So I believe competition's good, diversity is good, and I believe that if the students are graduating and they can read and write and they have a set of skills that can help them to maneuver through life, I believe that's a good thing.
Thank you. Second question, fewer college students than ever before are majoring in education, resulting in a growing teacher shortage nationwide. One of the reasons is pay, yet an effort in Bossier Parish to elevate salaries and make them competitive with other districts was soundly defeated. Do you believe a raise is warranted? And if so, what are your thoughts on how to fund it?
Well, I believe it's warranted. However, in Webster Parish, the teachers have just received a pay raise. Governor Edwards worked hard, I believe, to bring that into being. So the teachers have been granted a $1,000 raise and the support staff $500. So that's a really good thing in Webster Parish. But as I said, I've been in the school system and I know the challenges that these teachers face with the children. And we do need more teachers, and a raise probably would be instrumental in attracting more teachers. We could use fewer students in the classroom per teacher, because these teachers have a tough time sometimes making little Johnny sit down, making little Susie stop jumping up and down, making little Roy stop talking, and then you have one over here who's really trying to learn, and you're trying to organize this. So I believe we definitely need more teachers in Webster Parish and Bossier Parish, I think all over in this state, to attract more bodies that can be in the classroom and divide the classroom up, because right now we have special ed students in the same room with the regular students. And from my substitute teaching, that causes a bit of a problem, because when I sub, it's hard to teach the special ed ones and the regular ones at the same time, because the special ed ones can't keep up. And then the regular ones, you want them to keep going. So something needs to be done about that too. We need to work that out, work out the kinks so they both can grow and advance. Now, they used to have the special ed students in a separate category, a separate room in the schools, but for some reason they put them all together in. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's give all of our Senate District 36 candidates a round of applause for them taking the time to be here with us tonight.